Chances are that if somebody starts talking to you about coupes, the Audi TT won't be too far behind in the conversation. These cars are all about style, and in some ways space and practicality can take a back seat next to pure aesthetics. And there are plenty of coupes to choose from, ranging from entry-level options like Seat's Leon SC through to high-end sports cars like the Jaguar F-Type Coupe and even the Aston Martin DB11. And then somewhere in the middle of the pack is this, the Audi TT. It first burst onto the scene back in 1998 and has risen to become one of our favourite coupes on sale. It's jaw-dropping to look at, has a luxurious interior, but is also very engaging to drive, and its party piece is being effortlessly easy to live with every day. Now, the TT goes up against rivals including Nissan's 370Z and the Peugeot RCZ, but while both of those cars are undoubtedly great to look at, the Audi TT is additionally great to drive. There are plenty of engine options in this Audi TT. There are 4 petrols and 1 diesel to choose from, and within that selection you've also got the choice of Audi's 4-wheel drive system dubbed Quattro to choose from as well. Now, the 1.8 litre petrol, which kicks off the lineup and which we've got in this car, still feels quick and fun to drive. Acceleration is brisk and the 0 to 62 mph sprint is covered off in 6.9 seconds.
While the 1.8 is ultimately the engine that we would recommend, there is also a 2-litre petrol which produces 227 brake horsepower and is available with either front or 4-wheel drive.
Just be aware though that the 4-wheel drive cars are heavier, and you'll only really feel the system's benefit under treacherous conditions, not just with a few leaves underfoot as we have today.
There's also a 2-litre diesel, and despite having less overall power to cool on, it does have a lot of mid-range pull, so is worth looking at, especially if you're a company car driver. Towards the top of the TT range is the TTS, which gets a tuned version of the 2-litre petrol engine with more than 300 brake horsepower, and it can almost keep pace with a Porsche 911 to 60 mph. At the very top of the range is the 2.5-litre TTRS. With 349 brake horsepower available, it is blisteringly fast and makes a superb sound from Audi's famous 5-cylinder engine. Just be warned that with that extra power also comes higher running costs.
The TT's standard suspension setup is generally comfortable, and even if you opt for the firmer sport suspension, it's never uncomfortable. Bigger alloy wheels will allow you to feel more bumps though, which, as we all know, are easy to find on UK roads.
The TTS model comes with adaptive dampers, which allow you to stiffen or soften the suspension depending on the type of driving you're doing, while the TTRS gets the standard suspension setup but is lowered by 10mm.
Now, nobody is expecting the Audi TT to be as comfortable or as refined or as quiet as a luxury limousine, but aside from a few bits of wind and road noise, it's actually a pretty relaxed and comfortable cruiser. The 6-speed manual gearbox you get as standard with most models offers slick and precise changes, but for those interested in 2 pedals, the S-Tronic Automatic works generally very well, although it can be jerky at low speeds or when manoeuvring. The interiors of modern Audis are pretty much in a class of their own, and the interior of this Audi TT is no exception. You sit low down in the cabin and there's this wonderfully simplistic dashboard ahead of you. Now, you might notice that there's no central infotainment screen, and that's because instead every TT gets Audi's virtual cockpit display. Now, this replaces conventional dials with a configurable screen instead. Drivers of most shapes and sizes will be able to fit comfortably inside this cabin. There's plenty of adjustment in the seat, and the steering wheel adjusts for height as well as reach. If you want powered lumbar support, then it's an optional extra on our recommended sport trim, but if you want fully electric seats, then they're a pricey extra across the range.
One of the downsides of this fairly low-slung shape is visibility, and while the front isn't too bad, looking out of the back can be difficult. It's also fairly stingy of Audi not to fit rear parking sensors as standard.
Wherever you look and whatever you touch in this cabin, the quality is here to see. Audi has used plenty of luxurious materials in here, and all of the buttons and switches feel well damped and give off a real quality feel. Your eye is drawn to this 12.3-inch screen as soon as you get into the Audi TT, and it certainly looks futuristic. Fortunately, it's brilliant to use as well. It puts all the relevant information, including the satellite navigation map, directly in front of the driver, and that means that you don't have to take your eyes off the road in order to see that information. The only downside is that your passenger can't help out when choosing music or setting a postcode in the sat-nav system. But that's fine, because Audi has made it very easy for the driver to control it all instead. There are handy shortcut buttons on the steering wheel, and of course there's a rotary control dial down here on the center console. So let's see how easy it is to set a destination for the sat-nav. Now at the moment, not a lot of this screen is given over to the map, but if I press this view button here on the steering wheel, then it presents a much larger view. A quick touch of this rotary controller and I can input a destination. Now one of the things we've got on this test car is a handy touchpad on top of this rotary dial. So let's say I want to go to the What Car offices in Twickenham. Let's see if I start typing in T, W, there we go, it's recognised Twickenham already. And then I'm going to select the centre and start route. It's going to have a quick think, and it's going to give me three options of route, one which is the fastest, one which is the most direct, and one which is the most economical. Let's go for the fastest. There we go, and the route is set. Now as standard, you get a DAB digital radio and 2 USB sockets. Satellite navigation is optional across the range, and it's only available as part of the rather pricey technology pack. That said, it's an option box we think you should tick. A coupe isn't a car you usually buy for its outright practicality, but the Audi TT is surprisingly spacious inside. The wide interior also means you don't feel too claustrophobic or hemmed in. Storage space in here is at a bit of a premium. You do get small door bins as standard, and there is this rather large cubby space here in front of the center console. There's also space for one drinks bottle back here, but it does get in the way with bigger bottles on manual versions. If you've got very long legs, you might wish this driver's seat went back a bit further. Now, even though the Audi TT technically has 2 fixed rear seats, we couldn't recommend putting anyone back here, as even children will find it a bit cramped. The space is still usable though for extra bags or coats which won't fit into the boot. Each seat also splits and folds to create a fairly large loading area. Now on paper, this Audi TT has a bigger boot than the Ford Fiesta, and that may be true, but it's also rather shallow. So while loading some weekly shopping in here might not be a problem, loading larger or bulkier items might prove difficult. The opening is nice and wide though, and if you're feeling adventurous, you could even load a bicycle in here. You'll just make sure you have to take the front wheel off first. The Audi TT can look fairly pricey next to its main rivals. Now, discounts from dealers are likely to be small and could even be non-existent. But the good news is that the TT is expected to hold on to its value far better than most other cars in this class, while impressive fuel economy helps to keep running costs low. The cheaper petrol models of the TT are the ones to go for if you're buying privately. But if you're a company car driver, the lower CO2 emissions of the diesel are likely to be a big draw. The two most powerful models, the TTS and the TTRS, are ideally suited to those seeking thrilling performance, but be warned, you will incur higher ownership costs. Now, in most versions of the TT, you can choose between 2 trims, Sport and S-Line, and it's Sport that we recommend.
You get air conditioning, Alcantara and leather seats, 18-inch alloy wheels, Bluetooth connectivity and a digital radio as standard, but you'll probably want to pay extra for rear parking sensors, climate control and the technology pack, which gets you satellite navigation and makes full use of Audi's virtual cockpit display. In terms of safety, every TT gets 4 airbags, along with a collision system which helps to stop the car as soon as possible after a crash, though it's worth noting that automatic emergency braking isn't available. Euro NCAP have given the TT a 4 out of 5-star rating for safety.
If you're after a sporty coupe which is easy to live with, offers real driving thrills and remains stunning to look at, then the Audi TT is the most complete package on offer today. It is, quite simply, one of the best coupes ever made. Now, for plenty more on the Audi TT, including our full online review, head to whatcar.com.